Hi yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from Vancouver, Canada. Today is November the 20th, 2019 and this is video number 13. Unlucky for some, but I'm super excited about this one because it's the 20 questions that are going around YouTube right now. And I have been watching my favorite YouTubers answer these questions, and the door was opened by one of my favorite YouTubers, her name is Karin, and she's from Happiness is Homemade. So thank you, Karin, for opening the door. I know that I could have jumped in at any point, but it was just nice of you to be the first person that I watched that said, hey, you know, anyone can do this. And I'm going to be doing something different with these 20 questions. I'm going to be adding in some yarn ones. There's obviously one question here from the original 20 that I can't answer because if I was a boy, what would my name be? Well, it's Gary. So let's approach the other one. So what does my name mean? I would say that I checked online and I know that there are other origins, but the online quick Google that I made was telling me that it's derived from a Germanic name called Gerard, which has something to do with a spear or a weapon. But I know that it actually has origins from Gareth as well. So, and I know Gareth is more of a Celtic slash Gaelic name, and I'm not too sure what that means from those parts of the world. But if you are from those parts of the world, or you happen to know of a different origin, please comment on that and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear where the origin is from and what it means. I know that Tracy from Crochet Rocks has a husband whose name's Gary, so maybe from those parts of the world she could tell me what it means. And she's in the UK. And where am I from? Well, I open every video by, hi, I'm Gary and I'm from Vancouver, Canada. So I'm from Vancouver, Canada right now. I've been living here for 20 years. I immigrated, well, I started my process in 2000, so it's been 20 years, but I became a sworn in citizen, I guess nationalized, in 2007. And the next part of this story is relative to the third question, which is, where was I born? And I was born in Melbourne, Australia. For those people who don't know where Melbourne is, it's the southern east coast of Australia, and it's the second largest city in Australia. My parents were immigrants to Australia. Dad came from China, Mum came from the Netherlands, and they met in Melbourne. And Melbourne has a huge history of a city that's been built up by immigrants. Dad, I believe, came in like the 30s or 40s, and Mum came to Australia in the mid 50s. So they came from to Australia in different times in the world, in the timeline, I guess, and they met and they had 3 children. So it's my 2 sisters and myself. I'm the younger, and yeah, and we grew up there, and then I left Australia in 2000. And I'm going to add my first yarn question. So my favorite yarn finish type. What I mean by that is yarn comes in different finish styles. So it could come variegated, it could come roving, it could come self-striping, self-patterning, pulled, all different ways. So my favorite is Heathers and Marl. So Marl is when they have 2 different colored strands and they twist them together. And I love the finish of them because they kind of dance a little bit. They're not just a flat finished fabric of one color. There's kind of variety. And they work really lovely in large fields of solid color, I guess, like when you use them up in broad panels. And obviously I'm skipping over 4, like I mentioned. And number 5 is, what was my biggest accomplishment? Well, I have several in different areas of my life and also at different times of my life. So growing up, I guess school, finishing university was a big accomplishment. Not to discredit anyone who chooses a different path and learn their experience from work or their experience in other means. But school for me was not really, it was a struggle because affordability and also the length of time at school. So I worked and went to school at the same time. Then also being married, getting married, I should say, was a big accomplishment. So we've been together for 3 years. We've been married for 3 years, and 7 years we've been. Before that, we've known each other. So we dated, lived together for 7 years. So yeah, accomplishment was definitely a marriage. It's a great marriage. We're a great team. So that one is definitely a highlight recently. 8 years ago, I also moved away from working in companies. I'd been in a company for 9 years, and I moved away from that and started my own, I was self-employed, so I started my own business. And also a big accomplishment is I don't have any yarny friends, so to speak, because I'm kind of new to knit and crocheting my experience. So I love being on YouTube because you are my connection to talk about fibre things, and I love that. So thank you guys. And what is my eye color? They're brown. It will also now go back to a yarn question. My favorite yarn weight. I love medium 4. It's very versatile. I just think that it can work up well in clothing garments, in decor, if you're making blankets or cushions. I just think it's the most versatile weight. I love it that I can see where the stitches are too, that I don't need a microscope to actually see where things are. So that's a great aspect of a 4 weight as well. And going back to my questions, 20 questions. My favorite candle scent. Well, I would have to say I don't burn candles, only occasionally. And I do more of what they call a nebulizer. I don't know whether that's the official name, but it's like a vaporizer that kind of like steams off into the atmosphere or the room, and the scent is added to water inside of the nebulizer. And my favorite scent to add to that is anything foresty, like tree-based, like a eucalyptus or a cedar. I also like rainforest is the name, so that I guess they put a combination of different things in there. Pines, a really nice scent. And it's twofold too, because cedar, I've been told, is repellent for moths. So I nebulize, I work inside of our, it's like a small den that we have our clothes in, and I burn the nebulizer off in there, and that helps ward off any moths. And we don't like moths, right? Because they eat your garments, and because I have yarn as well and natural fibers like wool or silk, they love that. So yeah, I burn that off so that I can repel those little critters. Excuse me. The next question is, do I cook? Yes, I do, but not as often as I should. And in the past, I used to cook a lot. I used to... So, sorry about that. I get interrupted by a phone call. Yeah, hubby's coming home. He's stopping off at Costco. He's going to get some salad or something. But yeah, so getting back to the question, I believe it was, do I cook? Yes, I do cook. Not as much as I should. And in the past, I used to make all of my meals on the weekend for the whole week. So I'd be cooking up a storm in the kitchen Saturday and Sunday, and then packaging everything up for me and hubby. So yeah, but recently, maybe 2 years ago, we joined something called Fresh Prep, and we get 2 meals a week delivered, and they have a whole range of different recipes. And when the package arrives, it's already like portioned up, and all we have to do is cook the raw ingredients, and all the spices and everything are kind of portioned for the recipe that you're making. So we love that because we're learning how to do new recipes and flavors in our cooking. And the thing we liked about that too was it's really affordable. Actually, the meals that we're eating are $11 per portion. So we have 4 portions throughout the week, and we pay $44, and we are not having to go out and buy little, because there's only 2 of us eating, that if it calls for chili, we're not buying a big tub of chili or even a small package of chili. We're actually provided that chili. So we might not want that recipe for another like 2 months or 3 months or whatever. So things don't go to waste if you purchase the pre-packaged meal in that way, in that regard. So that's really a good service. We like that a lot. And it saves time too. What is good about my life right now? Everything. And everyone has been saying everything, but I'm going to elaborate on that just a tad. Living in this country, Canada, I have to say, has opened the door for me experiencing everything. The equal opportunity for being able to marry whomever you like or love in this instance, well, all instances, hopefully it's love, that I think that is one great reason to be thankful that everything is great. Everything's good in the way of health, everything's great in the way of work, having a newfound, I would say, passion in my life, like with yarn and meeting new people on YouTube. I don't really have a lot of people that I talk yarny conversations with, so it's because my friends, the circle of friends that I have, there's not really any other yarn lovers. I think I have one that has recently taught themselves to knit as well. So yeah, but other than that, I get my source of conversation and through my YouTube friends. So thank you for being out there. I'll insert another yarn question. So my favorite yarn fiber, I would have to say Superwash Merino or Merino Superwash and silk. Love, love, love that combination. I like the fact it's superwash too because you don't have to hand wash it, but it has all the beautiful qualities of wool. So that's definitely a fiber I like. Another yarn question, and then I'll go back to the other one, is my favorite yarn store. Well, I have a few. A yarn store could be online or bricks and mortar. So my favorite yarn store right now, I have a few of them. Spin Right was a yarn online store that I loved to purchase from for the tent sale. It was amazing. That tent sale had me going crazy, waiting for it to arrive and also waiting for them to call me back. They don't take online orders through an automated process. They you called them up for this tent sale and then they called you back to take your order. And I just thought that it was kind of a nice exchange there of human interaction. So I love that experience. And the person who took my call was amazing. We had like a great exchange. So love, love, love that. Lovecrafts.com is also another online store that I love using. It has a great way of opening up like other avenues. I can save collections away for a later date or my next purchase if I'm kind of like running through budgets and stuff and I don't see myself buying for a little while. So I have like this little way that I can put them away and label what it is that I liked about them. And also when you click on a yarn that you like in on that website, it tells you what you can make with it. So it's kind of like an inspiration source as well. I also liked Hirschner is also a online store, and they're not just yarn, they have everything. They have lots of crafty stuff, and I get their catalog. I just love that. It's an amazing feel and touch from the old days, and I'm a little bit of a I guess an old person trapped in a younger person's body. I just love all these like things that you can look through, and I guess the physical, the analog. So I still like that stuff. So I also want to go to Hirschner's factory outlet at one point in my life. That's definitely going to be a highlight. So love that. Going back to the regular questions. What is my sign? I'm an Aries. What scares me about aging? Well, I would say that definitely not the appearance of aging. I don't have any problems with that. I don't have any appearance of, any concerns with a number, so to speak. But what does concern me about aging would definitely be making decisions. If I was incapacitated to make a decision to suit my lifestyle or my choices, that would be something that would scare me. So thankfully I have a great circle of friends, and I have great support in family that know me quite well. So I would have to put my trust in the people if a decision needed to be made. So that scares me. Also, if I had lost body functionality, like if I couldn't physically do something at the time that I needed to respond, that would be a scare as well. Like if my reaction didn't work properly, or I couldn't, physically move. That would be a big problem too. What's my favorite holiday? Well, I would say Thanksgiving. In Australia, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So when I arrived to Canada, it was something new, and it doesn't have the hype that Christmas does. So I love Christmas as well because you're with family, but there is a lot of lead up to anxiety with Christmas, I think. Like there's the pressures of like what to buy people or what to give as gifts. There's also a lot of expectation on like making sure that you get to do all the rounds and see friends and family. So yeah, I would say that there is a lot of, and also just being on the street and having lots of crowded, I live downtown in Vancouver, so just getting from A to B, I walk everywhere or catch public transit. So but just getting from A to B when the Christmas rush is on, it's just a nightmare. So I like Christmas when it's just sitting down and eating and not having to live in a big city that that is under that pressure of Christmas. Thanksgiving is the way to go. And our family did never kind of like cook a turkey up for any festive seasons. So when I got to Canada, I ate turkey, and I love turkey. Sometimes I sit there and I just eat the turkey. I don't eat the vegetables, but I love turkey. Okay, what is my guilty pleasure? I'm gonna have to say anything crafty, like walking into a craft store, craft supplies, stationery. I love all of that stuff. Right now, yarn is kind of like under the spotlight, so to speak, like the passion to build my stash, and I want to try this yarn and I want to try that yarn. So I'm kind of like going crazy right now with yarn, but in the past, I've always gone into art supply stores or craft stores, and I've bought whatever has caught my eye at the time, and stationery is a big one as well. Like a lot of the times prior to yarn, I would go in there and just buy patterned paper or paper with tooth, paper to draw on, envelopes, writing paper. Like stationery was like one of the big things that I would spend lots of money on. So definitely crafty things. Let's throw in another yarn question here. What's my favorite yarn manufacturer? So I'm going to have to say Cascade and Lion Brand. I love all other yarns here and there, some more than others, but generally what I found with both Lion Brand and Cascade is that overall I have a great experience with them. So Cascade has, this also talks about the fibre that I like best. This Friday Harbour from Cascade is a I think it's superwash. Let me look. It's merino wool and silk. So these are the two fibres that I love the best. It's not superwash though, I wish it was superwash. And it has the heathered quality, and it comes from my favourite yarn company, which is Cascade. And I bought this from lovecraft.com. So really kind of like features all the things that I've been answering in my yarn questions. Going back to the regular questions. What show do I like to binge watch? Well, I'm a Netflix account holder, so I watch lots of Netflix. But I would say I love binge watching programs that take a different view or a different angle on things. So right now, I love character-based storyline. So right now I'm watching Atypical, and I don't know whether everyone is familiar with Atypical, but the main character of the story is this young man. I'll call him young man. He's kind of in college right now, and he narrates a lot of the scenarios with brain thoughts that he has, and I have to laugh at some of the thoughts that he has because I share them. I'm not laughing about, I guess, his condition, because he does have a condition, but I'm laughing because I actually think the same way he does in many scenarios. So I love that show. I also like the This Is Us, looking at different angles as well. It's such a tearjerker, holy smokes. Me and hubby are sometimes like bent over and sobbing with some of the storylines that they present. And also YouTube. I binge watch YouTube. So I am right now, I guess, go back and forth between maybe 20 to 30 favorite YouTubers, and sometimes I even explore new ones. So I love watching YouTubers from my community, like the yarn community, but also I do pottery, so I look at other craft kind of topics like clay or glazing or ceramics. I have a lot in those genres as well. We will insert another yarn question here. So what's the least enjoyable yarn I've used? And in my very, very small time working with yarn since March, I would say I haven't really had too many unfortunate experiences, but I will highlight a few things. I found that Karin's kindness was, I think it's all polyester, split a lot, because I guess when I was knitting with it, my needles were so sharp, I kept on piercing through the thread, and as I was trying to get the thread out, it would just fray like, wild hair or whatever, spring out kind of like weirdly and puff up. That was one yarn that I had problems with, but also Lion Brand's homespun. This one here, I just tried to work with this last night, and I was crocheting for my blanket, and I couldn't see the stitches. I couldn't see where to put in my needle. So yeah, I had problems with using that one. So I spent like an hour trying to figure out ways that I could use it, but unfortunately it ended up being spun into this ball, and I'm not going to use it with my crochet hook. Maybe knitting might be a bit easier. Going back to the original questions. Okay, what can I not leave home without? I think this is with everyone else, is definitely my phone, keys, wallet, and my glasses. Am I an early morning person or a night owl? I'm definitely a night owl. I have a little bit of insomnia. I think I get probably around 6 hours sleep. So I can go to bed at any time between 1 and 3 a.m. and I'm up at around anywhere between, say, 7 to 8, maybe 7 to 8 normally. Yeah, to start my day. And I just like being like in the evening, like right now it's nighttime, so the lighting's getting a little weird. What is my favorite movie genre? I would say scary movies, thrillers, anything that looks at something a little differently, as I mentioned with my binge watching. I love animation as well. So Pixar was one of the companies that I used to love. I still love all of their stories that they bring out. They always look at something differently, like Monsters Inc. Was amazing, and Incredibles was another one that was great from Pixar. So yeah, definitely animation, anything that looks at something differently. And let's insert another yarn question here. What is the favorite thing you like to make with your yarn? I'm going to say right now at this time it's hats. So I've made another bag o' day hat here. So this tutorial I'll link in the description box, but it's the beanie cap that Crystal kind of like instructs to make. And this one I think is for a smaller person. It has kind of like not come out so big, but I have lots of children / teenagers to make Christmas presents for, so this is going to be used for that. I'll do it the next one as well, because this is kind of relates to that question. What is the least favorite thing that you are making, that you've made with your yarn? And I'm going to say the blanket. I'm going to say the blanket, not so much because of the process, because I don't mind doing something that's repetitious. It's quite a brilliant way of relaxing. But I'm going to say this blanket right now because I'm laying all the squares down on the ground just to figure out what kind of pattern work I want to do. And I'm picking them up and changing them around, and I don't know what I'm doing with the pattern. I'm adding new colors. So that is definitely one yarn experience, I guess, that I'm not enjoying. Oh, excuse me, I'm just like a little gassy here right now. Yeah. Oh, and the other favorite thing that I forgot to mention that I like making, hats. I like making things that use up all my yarn leftovers. So that's another thing that I like using, making with my yarn, is anything that uses leftovers. Going back to the original questions, the last thing I bought was, getting a message here. The last thing I bought was a transit pass, like a bus pass. So that was the last thing that I bought. I went over to North Vancouver and had lunch with a couple of friends. Am I an introvert or an extrovert? This is a hard one because in a room at a party with lots of people, I'm okay. My hubby can walk off and leave me alone. If I don't know anyone, I kind of like can talk to anyone. So in that aspect, I would say I'm very sociable, but I don't think that makes an extrovert. I think what makes an extrovert is someone who thrives in that scenario, who loves and energizes themselves amongst people. And that's not me. I am an introvert in the fact that when I energize and when I kind of like recuperate, I'm on my own. I actually, or a few people, or having quiet time with hubby. So I'm definitely an introvert that way because that's the way I re-energize. I find that when at Christmas, especially, like the common thing that we say after going through a couple of gatherings with friends is that I'm just peopled out. Like it's just exhausting. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy my friends' company. It's just that I find you have to be on all the time. And I don't think I could sustain that for very long, but I think a true extrovert would be able to sustain that and they would thrive on it. Yeah. And the last question I have here in the 20 question series is, what's my favorite book? Well, I had to go on to my bookshelf because I got this when I was at home in Australia. It's a series of books and it's by a guy called Nick Bantock. Now, I believe Nick Bantock is somewhere here on the West Coast, whether it's an island in the States or in the San Juans, or if it's an island here in BC. But I didn't even know he was an author from around this area. But I love these books, and it harkens to a time in my life when I used to letter write. A little bit about these books is that Nick Bantock is also a illustrator. So through this book you see postcards that he's illustrated and two characters that communicate with each other. So you'll see character A talk to character B, and it's from the Griffin and Sabine saga. I don't know whether it's a saga, but it's like a relationship. And at some points you can actually open letters as well and read the letters that they have for each other. I just love this book. There's about 4 in the series, and it starts off with the book called, I think, Griffin and Sabine is the title of the book. And it gets me because I was in grade 6 and in Australia when I went to school, my public school had this program with pen pal writing, and you're probably familiar with pen pals organizations out there. They probably still operate now, but I had gotten myself a couple of pen pals from across the oceans. I got one in Holland and one in England, and I wrote to those 2 pen pals for about 15 years, I think. So I love these books because it reminds me of my writing, in my writing days where I used to correspond with letters. So yeah, and just unfortunate that my pen friends or pen pal friends went, we all went our own separate ways because of distance and just the nature of like when you grow and your life moves into a different direction. Do I have any more yarn questions? Yes, I do. I have, what is your favorite stitch? My favorite stitch for knit is the garter stitch, and my favorite crochet stitch right now, because I don't really know too many other stitches, is the double crochet. So I know it sounds boring, but right now they're so, I don't know, there must be something to do with repetition and not having to think, that your body is on autopilot that I love. So those two simple stitches, and they look great. They're so fresh and they're so uncomplicated. So those are my two favorite stitches for now. And the last question is, where do you get your inspiration from? So that's an easy one. I think I've answered it all along the way. Is my inspiration has been YouTube. Also finding out patterns online that are either on the yarn stores that I purchase my yarn from. So that gives me inspiration. And occasionally when I go into a yarn store, bricks and mortar, I'll talk to the individuals that are manning the store, and they are a wealth of knowledge. So I also get my inspiration from store owners and vendors on what's great to use for a product or a pattern that I have. So yeah, and with those three things, I get my ideas. Sometimes I get the wackiest things to do, like pairing things together that may not be like the obvious choices as well. So I think a couple of the inspirations that I have is just doing random things with my yarn, pairing them or utilizing them in different stitch work. So there's a discovery there that happens that I really like. Maybe not so much like the blanket thing, trying to figure out where things are going, but definitely like there is time to play with yarn that doesn't have any purpose or direction, and then you learn something as well. So that's all of my questions and my added questions that I'm supplying, and it's already at 27 minutes. So I am going to sign off now, and if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up and share the video if you like. I would really appreciate that. There's that notification bell if you want to hear any more of my stories or my experience with yarn. So yeah, I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.